We are joined by an individual right now who will be part of the cast of thousands on the 8.5-hour-long edition of NFL Game Day Morning on Super Sunday that starts at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And in the 2 weeks since this matchup has taken place, my favorite quote of any guest that we've had, talking about Bill Belichick taking away the one thing that can beat you the most, his quote was, what? The rest of us coaches just take away the decoys, right?
That's right. That's right.
Brian Billick here on the Rich Eisen Show. I love that.
I appreciate that.
Quote.
With the lineup you've got, I appreciate you found a kind of a void in the show that you could get me in.
Stop, sir. You've got a ring. You've got a lot of things to say. I love working with you. Love having you on this show. But I do find that funny because the number of guests that we've had and the number of shows that I've been on as a guest where people always, well, Belichick likes to take away the one thing.
Well, that's
that
like
beats you.
That's like the one when we get to the draft here in a month or two. So it's always, well, they're always looking for that smart, high disciplined player. Compared to us, they're looking for idiots that are thugs. I guess that entails that's what we're looking for. So I always find that interesting when they make that.
Yeah, you had the famed idiot thug draft board.
Absolutely. There's a return risk reward on that.
That's right. You only draft turds. That's what you do, and everyone else only looks for the high character guys. I've got Brian Billick here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, now we're so close. What are the coaches doing right now? What in the world can a head coach Super Bowl week do on a Wednesday to
right
affect
now
Sunday?
Is the first time it's going to begin to feel a little bit normal. I mean, from the time that you won the championship game to obviously the first couple days and sorting through the hotels and the tickets and this, that, and the travel, and then the game planning, and now you get here and it's a whole different environment in the league, and you do the whole media day and all that. And the league does a nice job. I'll give them credit for it. From this point on, the league obligations back off significantly. So now you can get back on the practice field. It begins to feel as best you can a little bit normal. The big thing I worried about is, one, you want the game plan to stay fresh, even though you've already had it installed, so you got to kind of keep it fresh in their mind. You don't want them to emotionally wear out. They want them to be able to kind of catch their breath. Physically, they're going to be fine. To realize between now and kickoff, particularly after the last practice on Friday, because Saturday will be a walkthrough, will be the longest 48 hours, 30, whatever it is, between that last practice on Friday and Sunday is the longest day of your life. I didn't want them to emotionally wear out, so I tried to not over-orchestrate, but set up a rhythm that allowed them to kind of get into a rhythm and not wear themselves out.
And during your preparations, did you go through that week saying this is a touchdown? You and your staff, you're putting in the game plan.
You got to remember my team. For me, it was, no, they won't score here. No, they won't score. If we could just get a touchdown, any way we could get it, no, that's not going to work for them, and no, that's not going to work for them.
But so there was no play, because it certainly looked like when that came out, I mean, you looked like the 2016 Falcons at one point.
You're talking about the Brandon Stokely and the touchdown?
Yeah.
Well, that's because I knew with that one touchdown, that's it. Game, set, match. We're done. With that defense that we had, you knew, because like we had seen so many times, unless you had played us, I've seen it team after team. We saw it with the Oakland Raiders in the championship game. People had no idea what they weren't going to be able to do against us until they got there. And I knew that New York didn't have a clue that they weren't going to be able to run the ball on us. No chance whatsoever. And that was going to put a shock to the system, because I'd seen it time and time again. And so when we got that score, and now all of a sudden they couldn't get the ball out of their hands quick enough, they couldn't run the ball, got nothing running the ball, you could see the emotional, oh my God, what do we do now? And then we had seen that so many times before.
Brian Billick here on the Rich Eisen Show, and that's the thrill of victory. Just, if you don't mind me touching on the agony of defeat here a little bit, the last time the Falcons made the Super Bowl, they were kind of, with all due respect to them, an accidental
beating our Minnesota Vikings
team that appeared for the NFC. I mean, how good was that NFC team?
That Viking team, it's always on I appreciate you bringing that up too, Rich. It's been a wonderful week for me. I'm just now sleeping through the night because of that. Here's the interesting point, and I bring this up because it was a magical group, 15-1, broke the all-time scoring record, unbelievable players, unbelievable firepower. And I'll put this to you, because you're such a fan of the game and a long-time suffering Jet fan. With the history,
right back at you, says Brian Billick.
With the history of the Minnesota Vikings losing in the Super Bowl, people forget that. And I remembered the conversation like it was yesterday. We're in position to kick the field goal. Denny, you want to go for the touchdown? No, kick the field goal. Garrett, kick the field goal. Game over. Because 10 points they weren't going to come back from. There wasn't enough time. call the play. We're setting it up. Gary runs on. I'm turning going to get the Gatorade because we're going to the Super Bowl. And I hear that groan from the crowd that he had missed. First miss he had had all year. People forget we lost, if I'm not mistaken, I think 4 starters on defense due to injury in that game. Let's say Gary makes that play. Let's say we were up by 10 and they can't come back. We go to the Super Bowl. We're playing the Denver Broncos.
TD.
Down 4 starters on defense. Now, we were pretty good on offense. What would have been the emotional scar to go to the Super Bowl in Miami and lose again for Minnesota Viking fans just because we were so depleted on defense against a pretty good offense in the Denver Broncos? It's kind of, now I'm obviously making excuses to why we lost, and I'm doing the Minnesota Viking fans a favor by explaining why we didn't go. But yeah, that is one with that group of players. It's like anybody, and I know it was the same with obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Green Bay Packers. You believe you're a team of destiny right up to the point you lose. That's why it's so gut-wrenching. And I've talked to so many players and coaches that whether it's a loss in the Super Bowl or a loss in the championship game, that never go back and look at that game. They can't bring themselves to look at the film.
No kidding. So what happens on Sunday? Because you've got an high-powered offense in the Falcons that is maybe one of the best to ever make it. Just look at their metrics, their numbers. One of the best to ever make it to the Super Bowl. Brian, what do you think happens?
The tough thing is, and this is a stupid, inane thing to say, Belichick and Brady aside, and that's really what and I've gone back and looked at the film, and if you can remove yourself from the pedigree of the New England Patriots, the fact that this is Tom Brady, and you just look at the teams and try to match it up, strength for strength, player for player, the way they've played, the way they got here, you come away, in my opinion, with the fact that the Atlanta Falcons are a better football team, that you would put your money based on the film, ignorant of all the other things going on, this is the better football team. But it's Tom Brady. It's the I keep calling this, we had to change this to call it the New England Patriot Invitational. They've been here so many times.
The NEPI.
Yeah. And the fact that you can't discount that pedigree, but I don't think that the Atlanta Falcons have to play the game of their life. I think they just have to play their game and they can win it.
So you think the Falcons win?
I do. And every time I go against, we had fun on it in game day first, and
Yes.
Melissa and I vowed that we would never, ever, collectively, because we're both Baltimore, right? And so we kind
Yes, of course.
hang together. We will never, ever pick against Tom Brady again, because it always comes back and bites us in the backside. But analytically, I'm going to go as a coach, I'm going to go with the film. And I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.